I'm putting it all on the line. 2024, these are the 3 areas that I feel will actually be some of the worst performers out there. If you're about to buy property in Australia, you need to listen to this episode. So before I go into these 3 areas, the first thing is to understand some of the metrics. Now, with these metrics, they were extremely short-term driven. So the important thing to understand is that these are not bad areas for long-term investing, and these are not bad areas for even medium-term, maybe 3 to 5 year investing. This is more so just based on certain metrics around now and our scorecards. These are not scoring high at all, if not some of the lowest. Which means that if you're potentially an investor looking at this, you want to look at it and go, do I really want to go here because of these low scoring environments? Or do I want to maybe go here because I think that the future will look better after it gets past this? That's up to you to decide whether you go against the grain or with it, depending on your portfolio strategy. The second thing to consider is maybe if you own property here, do not feel like I mentioned before that this is the end of the world for that market. Because remember, some of Australia's worst performing years in terms of Australia as a whole was only between 5 and 8% in declines. So is it really that disastrous, even if it's the worst one in the nation when it comes to macro decline figures? And when you're looking at that, you might just go, well, I might hold until these conditions come around. That's your choice again to make when you holistically review these things. But the main thing is, these are just the most short-term indicators for short-term scoring for short-term outcomes. So let's break down area number 1. The first area is actually a very picturesque. It's a beautiful area, and it's called the Southern Highlands region. Now, in the Southern Highlands region, just to give clarity, we used regions because these regions allow us to capture just a little bit more data. These analysis regions are called SA3, Statistical Area 3, and they just happen to have a bit more data sample size in them. But for the Southern Highlands area, we see the supply and demand trends for the first charts. Now, the first chart that you're seeing is us going through 3 core data points. One is listing levels, so how many properties are there available for sale. Number 2 is sales volumes, which is how many properties are transacting. And then number 3 is the combination of the 2 metrics called inventory. And what you can see is that inventory has been increasing, but not only has it been increasing, it's been increasing for multiple years, and it's increasing to some pretty high levels. So right now, inventory levels are trending upwards of 6. So how is this an important factor to look at, and what is it being driven by? The first thing you can clearly see is the sharp increase in listings over recent times. So it's definitely to do with the listing trends that are rising, and that is causing inventory to rise. Now, at 6 months of inventory, that represents a buyer's market. That's why those conditions are weak. Now, what does that show? It shows that for every 10 sales that would be occurring in a given month, there are probably 60 listings available. So hypothetically speaking, is that if you shut down the market and said no one in the Southern Highlands, in certain regions of Southern Highlands, can now buy property for the next 6 months, and only the average buyers who transact at average quantities can keep buying, it would take 6 whole months of buying 10 properties a month for all the properties to eventually be purchased. Now, if you're a buyer, is that very urgent for you? No, it's not. If you're a seller, you're probably twiddling thumbs waiting and worried about when that next buyer will come on. Now, what's the flow and impact of high inventory? Well, this leads to the next trend, and this is actually around days on market and vendor discounting. Because I want you to just put data aside for a moment and just think, I have higher available properties for sale with less purchasing happening. I therefore am a seller, and I'm now competing against other sellers, and I now need to wait longer to have my turn. And then you're going to go, well, stuff that. I don't want to wait longer. What do you do then? You're going to try and make your property look a little bit more attractive, or at least maybe your sales agent will make you do that because they don't want to show your home 6 more times than it needs to be shown. And they probably don't even want to make 100 more calls that need to be made. So they're going to knock on your door and go, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor, I don't think the market's where we're at. The pricing might not be in the right place. I suggest really energizing, they're going to use positive words, by the way, energizing the market and bringing it to some excitement and really trying to showcase this pricing, and we'll negotiate more with them when they come through. And there you go. That's the start of your vendor discounting occurring. And that's exactly what's happening here. If we look at the Southern Highlands and days on market trends, firstly, we can see days on market substantially rise. That is the green bars that you're seeing there. That has been rising every single year for the last few years. So this condition actually started back in November of 2022. You can see the rise that have continued to happen. And so if you're not seeing these trends and you're wanting to check it out, jump on our YouTube page. It's InvestorKit, and hit the like and subscribe so you can see this. But if you're listening to this on Spotify and or Apple, I'm going to shout out a few of these trends. So firstly, we see days on market at not too low. It's about 50, 55. And that days on market has now, though, trended up to about 80 days. So almost doubling, a little bit under double. But that is picking up really quickly. And that's over just 2 years of data. So that is definitely picking up as the years have gone on. And it's not like this big drop off and then back up again. It's a constant trend line. You could draw a clean trend of rising days on market. So that's that time factor. So we go back to chart 1. It was rising listings, high inventory. Chart 2 is leading to longer time to sell. And then in chart 2, you'll also notice vendor discounting. Vendor discounting is sitting at higher amounts as well, which means there's a greater discount being given to be able to actually let go of a place. It's getting to a level of close to 10%. So if someone's pricing a property, as an example, at 500K, you could kind of say that most sellers are letting it go at sort of 10% less. It's a big change here. So as a result, vendor discounting increasing, vendor discounting at high amounts, and people taking longer to sell is likely to mean that prices definitely will take a haircut, or at least grow much slower based on these trends. The third trend is looking at the rental market, and you might be saying, hey, look, maybe if the rental market's tight though, the renters might come in and want to go into the price market and boost this back up because, there's an opportunity here for renters to go, I don't want to be seeing my rents increase. I don't want to keep paying more rent. I want to go back to the buying market and maybe look at what's there, especially if prices are flat, there's more choice available. Well, actually, the renters also have a lot of choice available. So they're not in any hurry. They got lots of rental properties. It's easy for them to pick up. And we can see here the vacancy rates, courtesy of SQM Research, are now at 5.1% for the region. Like, that's massive. That's a very high amount. Now, we've got to admit, though, that this does go through seasonalities in this area, being the Southern Highlands, a lot of Airbnbs, a lot of regions like that. But even in the seasonalities, the constant jump up in rental vacancy, choice for renters. Obviously, there's a lot of, there wouldn't be huge amounts of renters there, but there's definitely a lot of choice of renters for renters. Now, if we also then go on to seeing high supply of inventory, and also prices have grown a lot in the last 10 years. So that's also coming off a large amount of growth, and then combined by longer times to sell and higher vendor discounting. All of this, if I was to put all the trends aside, it's like, hey, there's more properties available, lots of rental properties available. There is longer times for you to make a decision, take your time. Vendors are going to say, if you want this much, I'll bring it down this much, meet in the middle. Negotiations aren't going to be in their favor. And on top of that, whilst all of this is happening, it already grew a lot. It's declined a little bit. And now you're getting an opportunity to wait this out or see it decline further with stronger negotiations. So this is where short-term trends and analyzed like this, even though there might not be every single trend, just the core drivers of end price trends are being shown here that it's not looking like a strong year for 2024. Now, if you're looking for some green shoots to see, well, is there anything in this data that tells me maybe it might not be the worst performing and maybe it might turn around? Well, the only two green shoots I can see here is that over the last few quarters, the actual days on markets are flattening, so it's reaching some sort of peak. Same with vendor discounting. It's not upwards trending way more, it's peaking out. Vacancy rates are high, and you could say that they've been high for some time and hopefully may come back around, but even that's not a guarantee. The only thing I would say that is a trend is coming back to that first chart. Well, in that first chart, we saw inventory starting to flatten out and it started to decrease. So if that inventory that's decreasing from 6 really picks up some pace in the levels of decrease, then we should see prices start picking back up again. But if all these trends were to sustain for the rest of 2024, or at least most of it, then this would be a fairly weak performing area for the rest of the year. Area number 2 is the region of the Snowy Mountains. Now, a beautiful, picturesque area. However, inventory levels are skying up. And I'm going to actually take you through the same 3 core charts, because these 3 charts can represent short-term buying conditions, both on the good side and the weak side, very accurately. They're very powerful charts to give you some guidance of what's ahead in the short term. And what you can clearly see is inventory levels have been jumping up massively. The line in the middle is kind of the balance line, and you kind of want to be there or under or just above. But you can see 2 things happening. The inventory trend is jumping due to the response of high listings. Inventory levels are now at over 6 months of inventory. This is a lot of supply, similar to the first region in comparison to how many deals are happening. If we jump straight into the second chart, it's being responded to with increasing days on market. And these increasing days on markets are massive. It's gone up from 55 days in November of 2022, and it's now gone up to close to 100 days in January of 2024. Double. So it's taking double the amount of time to sell properties. And guess what's rising up with it? Vendor discounting. And so you'll notice with my analysis of this, by the way, if we take a pause to just actually see what am I doing, I'm not talking about the cause. I'm not saying that, oh, well, there's not enough cows at Southern Highlands, and therefore it's not as beautiful, and I'm not finding the area as nice anymore. You know, my grass cutting is really difficult in the Southern Highlands. My acreage is just extremely difficult to cut grass, therefore I'm exiting this and happy to lose money. Or it's not like, oh, there's not much snow in the snowy mountains, therefore prices are just going to go under and everything's collapsing. Or I just don't feel like skiing anymore and everyone in the snowy just does not ski. I'm not talking about little economy things. I'm not talking about, thoughts or beliefs that are to do with your opinion. I'm talking about whatever reason there could be. As a property investor, the reason comes second. The data comes first. If you focus on the data first, you're going to be able to say, whatever reason it is, I don't know. And saying I don't know is very humbling. I don't know why. Because you're just not trying to assume, you're not trying to make up a scenario, you're not trying to sound knowledgeable, you're knowing facts. And the facts are there are a lot more listings in comparison to years ago. There is a lot less buying in comparison to listings. Places are taking longer to sell, and vendors are going, please take my home away from me. Double the time, I can't sit here. You need to understand this as a property investor. If you get the data right, you will then be able to then turn a fact into the hypothesis of the reasons that it could be. And even if you think you've got it right from a few agents locally, you won't perfectly know it. There are so many reasons that can go into a market of its performance or lack of performance. Don't try and feel like you need to solve that. Just look at the end outcomes to begin with to know where it's likely to go and what is currently happening. And at least that can gauge your decision-making, action-taking in the short term. And then you can unpack that short term with greater confidence through the reasons of potential reasons why it might be doing that. And so looking at that days on market, it's not a pretty trend, and neither is the vendor discounting. Both are skying up. Now, let's look at vacancy rates. Is it the worst it's ever been? No, it has been higher, but it is, again, not pretty. Vacancy rates are at 3.2%. So in summary, easy to find a rental, lots available, and rent's not skyrocketing up. Lots of time to sell, double the time than 2 years ago, almost double the amount of discounting occurring, and triple the amount of stock levels in terms of actual deals occurring. By no means is that a pretty picture. So if you're looking for a holiday home in the Snowy or the Southern Highlands, probably the best time to do it, depending on your deeper analysis and the individual property. But based on stock levels, that's what's kind of happening and should allow you to have more choice as time goes on. Area number 3. And area number 3, the same trends were being analyzed again because we want consistency as investors. But area number 3 is the Macedon regions. And this is the region out in Victoria. So probably just unintentionally I've uncovered as I'm going through these regions that these are all beautiful areas. So don't let the beauty of an area surprise you. Like as in we're talking areas with lots of beauty, whether it be tree changes, leafy areas, snowing, skiing, snowboarding, whatever you're into, hot chocolates, like everything's there from the tourism, picturesque, large blocks, large land, the things that we sometimes dream for, yet aren't the areas that are showing the best signals. Now, to avoid the data that can be messy in some of these bigger acreages areas, we didn't even take suburbs. We took big regions to try and capture all the suburbs within it. And even then, these trends are there. We're not even talking about current data, because remember, when you're analyzing data, you just don't want current snapshot. You want current snapshot, relativity, and trends. So in current snapshot, I'm saying there are 6 months of inventory. In relativity, I'm using a scale. I'm not using the small suburb. I'm using enough data size, the region. And then lastly, in terms of trend, I'm saying, well, it's 6 now, but it was 2 before. So that is a different opinion to it's 6 now, it was 8 3 months ago. Two very different areas. So it's important when you're analyzing data to look at relativity, trend, and snapshot to make an example so you know where things are headed based on these 3 components. And looking at this, the same picture is quite clear. If we're looking at inventory levels, trend will start there. Inventory levels were actually always quite weak, but they're above 5, and they're now trending close to 9 months of inventory. No shortage of stock there. Again, driven by listings. The second chart here is days on market. From about 60 is going up close to 80. So trend is up and total days on market is higher. Vendor discounting though is flatlining and inventory is curving the other way. So out of the 3 markets, I'd say the Macedon Ranges is probably going to be one that's going to turn around a little bit easier. Even though the inventory is higher, the inventory is coming down. Days on market, yes, higher, but it's not at this peak that keeps on peaking. It's actually peaked twice, so it might be a sign of the line break coming where it might slow down again. And with vacancy rates, it's not as high as the other 2. It's more at 2.8%, which is still by any means not tight. But vacancy rates aren't as high as before. Days on markets flattening, vendor discounting flattening, and inventory, whilst it is the highest of the 3, it's starting to curve back down. So that's now me using, relative snapshot and trends to say that, yes, it is a pretty bad performing area based on the trends and relative and snapshot now, but it is trending slightly different to the other 2. So it could recover a little bit depending on how deep those trends go. I hope you enjoyed this analysis of data. And I know sometimes if you're listening to this and you want to get more of a visual, again, a reminder to jump on the YouTube page and click like and subscribe to support us. But if you're enjoying the podcast and you feel if I'm doing a okay job or decent job in helping you understand these trends deeply on the audio, drop us a review to let us know your thoughts on the podcast. And so as this podcast comes to an end, I just want to share one final thing. The biggest takeout I'd like you to do from this video, and perhaps even use this as homework to go and analyze markets as you're building out your journey of property investing analysis, is to try and take a moment to just really stop and draw the line and not focus on the why, not hunt deep on the why. Focus on the what, right? The what being inventory, the what being vacancy rates, and the what being days on market and vendor discounting. Now you know the core things. Then you break down the trend, and then you break down where they're up to and the size of the market to ensure you've got enough data sizes. These trends alone, without overcomplicating property, will give you the cleanest picture of short-term movements, but they're extremely short-term. I'm talking 6 to 12-month movements. And if you're monthly analyzing these trends, combined with where the snapshot is and where the relative market is, you should be able to stay that 6 to 12 months ahead of trends on the what and where something is going. Now, then if you want to increase confidence, that's where you turn into the why. Increase confidence, you turn 6 trends of sales volumes, listings, inventories, combining them, days on market, vendor discounting, and vacancy rates. These 6 trends, if you want to combine them and get high confidence, you then get greater levels of trends, metrics to throw into there. I'm just trying to make sure that without needing hundreds of thousands of dollars in subscriptions or data scientists or research analysts, which we all have at InvestorKit, you can take these 6 trends and start to just make better decisions. And with better decisions equals better results. Hope you found this episode of value.